Welcome to my channel, Delightful Stories. I'll be happy if you subscribe to my channel and like it. Enjoy watching and don't forget to leave your opinion in the comments about the story. Beatrice sat by the window, sipping strong coffee. It had been a quiet shift today. It would be home soon, unless of course some woman in labor was brought in. To be honest, I didn't really feel like going home. It was Saturday, which meant that her husband would be home, and she couldn't be with him for such a long time because she had recently found out that he had a mistress, and not the first one. Beatrice had believed him all this time, loved him, waited while he supposedly lingered at his sites. Her eyes were opened to her by a colleague and friend, simply telling her that she couldn't stand to see how stupid she was anymore. Beatrice didn't believe it at first, but then she put it all together. And it turned out that Angelina was absolutely right about everything absolutely. Beatrice wasn't going to talk yet. No. She wanted to, of course, but not now. Yes, she thought she was a wimp. But the very thought of being left alone was unbearable to her, so she decided she needed to wait a little longer. The brain has already started the work of destroying love. And soon, very soon, she would be able to stop loving Kevin. That's when she'll tell him everything. That's when she'll file for divorce. Kevin and she met in their last year of medical school, and Angelina was sitting comfortably on the park lawn. Exam time was approaching. Both girls, though they had gone in different directions, did not want to be bad doctors. Kevin, on the other hand, was walking his friend's dog in the park that same day. The friend had gone somewhere and entrusted Kevin with this honorable mission. The dog was big, handsome, and completely unobedient. Although, as it turned out later, he wasn't obedient. He was only with Kevin. And she looked away from her notes for a second. She watched Kevin nearby talking the dog into going home with a shawarma. The dog sneered resentfully at the smell of the treat. He didn't look at Kevin and lay perfectly still on the grass. Listen, pirate. You should understand that you're not the only one who's so important in this world. Actually, I'm from work. I'm tired, I want to sleep. And you show up here like it's the most important thing to do. The dog laid his head on his paws, not even going to listen to what he had to say. Kevin sat down tiredly beside him. You think you're doing the right thing. No, I don't. I will remember what you are like, how you behave, won't I? And I will never agree to stay with you again. And when your master goes away on another business trip, you'll sit at home without any walks and will feed you. The neighbor's balaclava. The dog lifted his head and looked at Kevin resentfully.
What are you looking at? You think I'm joking?
Not at all. The dog barked sadly and finally got up on his paws. Kevin jumped up too. I wish you would have done that a long time ago. This shawarma really is a bitch. They were about to move, and he heard a woman laughing. He turned around. A girl sitting on the grass with a textbook was laughing. Kevin had seen the couple earlier and was jealous, his college days behind him. Now he was looking at the laughing angel. He couldn't get a word out. Then he took a few steps toward her, and I thought angels couldn't laugh. The girl was silent for a second, and then the two of them laughed together with their girlfriend. And Angelina's were completely different. So different, in fact, that it was not clear at all what connected them. Well, first of all, their looks. If Beatrice was a blonde with blue eyes, Angelina was a bright brunette. If Beatrice had 1001 curls, Angelina had perfectly straight, smooth hair. They were also like fire and water in character. Beatrice is calm, loving, and forgiving of everyone. Angelina, on the other hand, was not very fond of people, dogs and children. She always spoke from anyone. You can expect a catch in this world. They argued often, but each stuck to her own opinion. Kevin stood there smiling stupidly. The interesting thing was that looking at the pirate's face, you could tell he was smiling too. And just like his escort, Kevin immediately stopped rushing home, to the great joy of the dog, Since the girls were already tired from class, they happily agreed to eat ice cream. Then they wandered through the park, watching the crazy jumps of a pirate who was trying to catch some invisible shadow. From that day on, it was as if a black cat had run between the friends. The fact is that both of them liked Kevin. And what to do about it, they didn't know. They knew that telling Kevin to make up his mind was somehow wrong, because it was entirely possible that he was treating them like friends at all. Beatrice, there's a woman in labor. Beatrice looked at her watch. She only had 50 minutes left on her shift. She smiled. That's good. Maybe while she was here, her husband would go off on some urgent business of his own. She got up easily, washed the mug, put it back where it belonged. The mother appeared to be a woman in her 40s. By all appearances, she was a country woman, frightened or something. She was even surprised. Why are we so friendly? Is this your first time? The woman nodded. Beatrice was taken aback. Usually women of that age, if it is the first pregnancy, shiver, waiting for a baby like a miracle. The stranger suddenly cried. My husband and I had no children. 16 years we lived, and it was all for nothing. We talked to him about it. He was worried, and so was I. But what was I supposed to do? So I decided to go for a walk with a man from the next village, and I told him not to look for me. My husband was glad. He's a non-believer, but he even went and put a candle in it. And John decided he needed me and came with my son-in-law and told my husband everything. And I love my husband, you know. I put up with John for his sake, for the sake of my family. Yeah. Beatrice looked at the woman and realized that now, apparently, her husband no longer needed her. And that your husband left you? No, I didn't, but I wish I had, honestly. It's such a shame. John's told the whole village that he's our child. How am I supposed to live now? God, where was my head? Only my husband won't look at me, won't talk to me. He moved into the summer house, and all I can do is cry, and I never go out. I am ashamed. Well, don't get so upset. There is no way out only in one case, when there is no more. And here let us fill everything, give birth, and then we will think with you. No card was put on the register. It was going to. But then John this. Beatrice and the nurse looked at each other. So you didn't take any tests? No, I didn't give anything up. Why? Is something wrong? Let's hope that's the case. But that's too bad. They do tests for a reason. This allows you to detect abnormalities in time, if they exist. The woman waved her hand. What pathologies? John, the bastard, this one too. Oh, what have I done? It was a tough delivery. Beatrice hadn't worked like that in a long time. After several hours of intense contractions, the labor subsided. She and the other midwife didn't leave the woman's side. Her blood pressure kept bouncing. What to do? I think we should call a doctor. Half an hour later, the woman was taken away for surgery as she was moved on a gurney. She looked at Beatrice. There's my Lucas. I know he hasn't left. You tell him I only love him. Little things can happen to me. He looked at her sternly. Don't be silly, you'll be fine. And don't get yourself all worked up. But will you tell him anyway? I'll be sure to tell you. Beatrice stepped outside and immediately saw a man begging at the door. You, Lucas? He rushed over to her. Yes, me, Lucas. Tell me how Sonia? There's something wrong with her. What? Sonia was taken away for surgery. The baby can't be born on its own. It's over. He put his head down, and she calmly said, why the end? C-sections are done quite often. It's not that uncommon an operation. But the fact that she didn't do any tests is wrong. She told me what happened in your family, and I don't think it was the baby's fault. Could you go away, or could you be a little softer already? Lucas grinned, a little softer. That you know she's pregnant again. That's all. And the fact that John told you everything and you don't talk to her, well, nonsense. This is only one side of the coin. Do you know what it's really like? Well, tell me. Maybe it would help in some way. The man took out his cigarettes, looked questioningly at Beatrice. She waved her hand. You can smoke now. The man smoked and spoke. She and I were city dwellers in general. I was studying to be a doctor. She was going to be a design Kevin. She didn't have anybody. Her mother died when she was a baby. When Sonia turned 20, she never knew her father. I only had an aunt left at that time, but she was like a mother to me. When I saw her, I realized that she just had to be mine. I would never give her away. Do you have any idea how much I loved her? I still do. And when I proposed, I found out that Sonia had some kind of disease. Anyway, she needed ecology, a permanent cure. But such little things couldn't stop me. What a hardship compared to my love. Anyway, the doctors categorically forbade Sonia to give birth. She, like all women, wanted a child very much. Don't listen to her. I wasn't the one who was against her getting registered. She didn't because she couldn't. And she went to John because I was protecting myself. I really didn't want to lose her. We moved to the country too, because she felt better there. Beatrice was shocked. Wait, but she didn't say a word before the operation. That's not right. The man handed her the file. That's it right there, only it's no use. Beatrice rushed to the hospital on her way, taking out leaves. Sonja could not be operated on. After an hour, the doctors gave up. It was no use fighting. A boy was born. Very beautiful. But Sonia was no more. Beatrice looked at the sheet-covered body and realized that there, waiting outside, was a husband who had sacrificed everything for his wife. And here lay his wife, who had done everything for their part. She went out and sat down next to Lucas again. He took one look at her and understood. Tears ran down his cheeks. After a few minutes, he asked with the baby, that pretty boy, "Tell me what to sign to refuse him." She didn't try to convince him that the baby was Sonia's continuation and all that. Somehow she knew it was useless. Beatrice took him to the head doctor's office, and she finally began to get ready to go home. It was already 1 o'clock in the afternoon. It was quite possible that her husband was already worried there. Kevin might not be. What a paradox. A cobbler with no shoes. She delivers more than one baby a day. And she doesn't have any herself. Checked a few times, even talked Kevin into it. But they all say everything's fine. Just wait. How long do I have to wait? She's 30, 4 years old. Kevin was home, came out to meet her. I already wanted to call the hospital. She's gone somewhere. I made dinner. Beatrice looked at him carefully. She'd never thought he could be so hypocritical before, smiling, pretending to be happy. And she couldn't even say anything. He will know at once that Beatrice knows everything, and then they will have to break up. And he wouldn't live with a traitor, and then he wouldn't have to pretend, and he could go out in the open. Thank you, Kevin, but I don't want to eat. I'll go lie down. It was a hard shift, but Kevin looked upset, even resentful. Beatrice walked silently past him, changed clothes, and lay down. A few minutes later, she heard the front door slam. She turned, resting her head on her pillow, and cried. That was it. That was the end of happiness. She was very disappointed in her husband. He had to cheat, not to love, but to act the way he did. I never would have thought he could do that. Memories were born again in her mind. Beatrice realized that Angelina was much more persistent than she was and more likely to date Kevin than she was to date him, because she is pushing him herself. Then she couldn't get away. She missed the last shuttle, then she chooses a gift for a friend and asks Kevin for manly advice. Beatrice saw that Kevin always rushes to Angelina at the first call and decided that she was superfluous here. She almost stopped calling her friend and refused to go out together. Why should she? Kevin probably isn't very happy to see her. Angelina wouldn't say anything outright either. She's a friend. But it's a shame you don't want to see her Kevin hugging someone else. She didn't know what stage her friend's relationship with Kevin was at, and she didn't want to know. It was probably fine. The slob doesn't call, doesn't cry. One evening I ran out to the store, out of milk at home, and bumped into Kevin at the front of the store. He seemed very genuinely pleased with Beatrice. "I haven't seen you in 100 years. Where have you been?" She shrugged, trying to look indifferent. It was just business, and she tried to hold back the beating of her heart. And I ask Angelina every time where you are. She always says something busy. Kevin walked beside her, took the bag of groceries from her. "I'll walk you out." "Yeah, I don't live too far from here. And what right do I have to escort such a beautiful girl?" She wanted to say nothing, but she couldn't. "Angelina won't mind when she finds out you're seeing other girls off." Kevin looked at her strangely. "Well, first of all, what kind of stranger are you to me? And second of all, I don't understand why Angelina should even care who I see off." I was a little offended by those words. Is that any way to talk about your girlfriend? Well, actually, when you're dating a person, Kevin was relieved to say. "Is that what you mean? So we're not dating, but in the way you think? We're just friends, nothing more? Maybe she's got something on her mind. Maybe she's got something on her mind. But no, she just has stuff going on all the time, and I have to help." She stopped abruptly. She looked at Kevin with her eyes, and it suddenly dawned on him. "Wait, so that's why you're avoiding talking to me. And I was stupid for thinking I was disgusting. I won't touch you. Are you the opposite of that?" Beatrice bit his tongue out, but it was too late. Kevin was already smiling. "Would you think I was too cheeky if I asked for tea?" Beatrice smiled. "Even if they show up, I'll still give you tea." From that day on, Kevin started showing up near her house often, and he didn't say anything to Angelina either. One day, they met at the mall. Kevin was just picking out an ice cream, and Angelina walked up unnoticed, so that's how it was. And I wondered where my boyfriend had disappeared to. And it turns out that his best friend stole him away. I didn't expect that from you. I certainly didn't expect this from you. Beatrice flinched. "What guy?" Kevin said. "You're not dating?" "Of course, what else can a man say?" "Believe me, he'll say that about you too." Kevin turned around, saw Angelina, and headed toward them. But the girl did not wait for him. She turned around and left without saying goodbye. What she wanted. Said, "I stole you away, and that's no way for a best friend to do that." Was upset to the point of tears. Kevin, on the other hand, was calm. "That's good. You are too trusting and naive. Angelina is not like that. I wouldn't want her to be your friend. And not because I want to impose my opinion on you, but because she's insincere. She's the kind of person you have to be afraid of." Beatrice didn't listen to Kevin. She tried to make up with her, but she only made it worse. Her friend cried, said a whole bunch of hurtful words to her, and then she left altogether. Beatrice could not even invite her to the wedding. She was worried, of course. She felt guilty, but she wasn't about to give up on Kevinina. Angelina showed up 5 years later, and they met by chance. Beatrice had just summoned a team of cardiologists, women in labor. Angelina was in it. The meeting was stormy. Both of them apologized to each other. They even cried, and they became best friends again. Kevin was surprised to see that his wife hadn't come home from work alone. "Angelina, where are you from?" she laughed. You wouldn't believe it, but it turned out to be better at home. They had a really good time that night. Kevin had long since gone to bed, and they were still talking. Turns out Angelina had been married before. True, she was only married for 3 years. Her husband was some kind of professor, and Angelina became quite a wealthy woman. Took from her husband a large apartment, a car, and even a sum of money. After selling everything, she came back here and bought a nice house in the center. So as she herself laughed, Now she was a bride again, and not just a bride, but a very enviable one. Beatrice herself did not notice how she fell asleep. She dreamed of nightmares, of people she didn't understand, of chases. I woke up in a cold sweat and looked at my watch. 22:00. She had been asleep for so long. I went out. The apartment was quiet, so her husband was still out. She found dinner prepared in the kitchen. Her husband had done his best, meat with a royal salad. She didn't even taste it. Beatrice was piqued by the wine, but she quickly chased it away. And that feeling, she didn't blame him for anything. But he did to her. The phone rang in the hallway. Hi? Hi, Angelina. What's up? I don't even know. Not yet. You see, I was in surgery and, I got so wound up that I didn't get it done before the surgery, so quickly. Wait, you were supposed to do it as soon as they put it in. Beatrice, well, there was no time. There was a lot of work, and here is a healthy woman. Angelina, are you crazy? Do you realize that she could still be alive? Beatrice, don't play the holy innocents, as if you always do everything the way it should be done. Then I asked, I don't understand. What do you want from me? Tell me, what did you do and how? Is it just lost somewhere? No, I'm not going to say that. But you're my friend. You don't understand that I could be in big trouble. Well, it's a mistake. It doesn't happen. Angelina, your mistake cost a man his life. Do you understand that? Angelina screamed, I understand. Don't you understand that I could go to jail? And for no reason at all. Everybody gets away with it, but I don't. And only because of my closest friend, for whom I am ready to do anything. It's hard to say one word. And I worry for her. I help her. Angelina hung up. Beatrice was left sitting in the hallway. But here again, Beatrice's fairness might drive them apart. You can't bring a woman back anyway. Why spoil her life? She wanted to call her friend, but then she thought it was useless to do so now. Kevin came back when she was already in bed. He walked around rattling the dishes, but Beatrice never got up. She knew perfectly well that he was making a noise on purpose to get her out. But she held back, and she didn't want her to ask him where he'd been all this time. Clearly his mistress. The thought hurt her so much. Beatrice suddenly realized that she couldn't forgive him anyway. She immediately remembered Angelina's words. She's so young, so beautiful. Well, maybe our age, of course, but she looks great. They weren't shy at all. Apparently, they came out of the cafe and stood there hugging. You do realize, if he's not hiding, he doesn't care about you at all. Or maybe he's already so used to cheating that he's just oblivious to the danger. Beatrice refused to believe what Angelina was saying, but her friend had described the woman in great detail. Beatrice was even sure that if she ever met her, she would be sure to find out. In the morning, she received a call from the hospital. Beatrice, we understand, it's your day off, but the nurse is sick. She just called now. You can't fill in? Sure. Just need to get ready. I'll be there in an hour. Thank you very much. She would then be delayed. Beatrice ran to get ready. Better at work than at home in the ringing silence. Her husband had already left for work. Will he show up or not? She doesn't know. He has his own life now, very busy. She ran in, not even had time to change her clothes before they came for her. Beatrice, there's a woman brought in who doesn't understand anything at all. Okay. 3 minutes and I'll be there. She almost ran down to the waiting room. The woman was about 30, and it was immediately apparent that she was very sick, dry lips, pale skin. She wasn't even moaning, just holding her stomach and whispering the whole time. Just save my baby. Beatrice examined quickly. Her situation was critical. She ordered all the tests, but she knew it was bad. She rushed to the head doctor. She had to operate. She has no documents, nothing at all. And she is in such a state that she does not answer any questions. The chief doctor jumped up. What an interesting woman you are, Beatrice. You need it, and that's it. And you asked if there's anyone to operate on. The team is waiting for the deputy mayor's wife, but the brigade is just waiting. And the woman could die at any moment. And what do you suggest I do? Postpone paid childbirth? Well, it's no big deal. There's nothing critical there. Don't talk nonsense. Your stray will bear it. She's not homeless. It's just that, apparently, the person got sick on the street. Go. Don't interfere with my work. You're a good doctor, so help me. He saw through the window as the deputy mayor's car pulled up. Everybody's here. The doctor in charge rushed past Beatrice to greet the guests. She was the first to think of such a thing, to move the important people aside and take some strange woman off the street before she did. The deputy mayor was leading his wife under his arm. He was frightened. She, on the other hand, was smiling happily. At first he thought the woman was happy to see her baby soon, but then he realized that she was just drunk. He looked at her in surprise, and she smiled even wider. Why are you looking at me like that? Or do you think I'm going to put up with this disease? The deputy mayor immediately took him under his arm. Honey, here's the thing. And Monica, she's very worried. At that moment, Monica said pitifully, I feel sick. I feel nauseous. They took her away immediately. The mayor sighed and looked at the doctor with meaningful eyes. Norman, we're both adults. The bastard's been drinking like crazy for the last 2 months. I want you to listen to me. The baby shouldn't get hurt. It should be born alive and well. Do you understand me? The chief physician nodded. We'll do our best. The man shook his head. No, you don't understand me. The baby must be born alive and healthy. Otherwise, you will be very sorry you were born. The deputy turned on his heels and went to where they took Monica. Oleg wiped a handkerchief sweat from his forehead. He turned and ran into Beatrice. Beatrice, why are you terrorizing me? Haven't you heard anything? I heard that, Norman. And I can tell you now with absolute certainty that you disgust me to look at you. Beatrice, aren't you taking too much liberty? Beatrice turned and walked away. Angelina walked up to Norman, stood there, looked after him, and then turned to the head doctor. What should we do? The baby's heartbeat is bad. I understand that the husband and the alcoholic Monica will smear us, if anything. The chief doctor sighed sorrowfully. You got it right, Angelina. At least someone understands me in this hospital. There's only the right kind around here. What can Norman do? Angelina took him by the hand. Well, the first thing to do is to kick Monica's husband out because she's feeling too much pain. And then we'll see what the circumstances are. Yes, Angelina, you're absolutely right. That's what we're going to do now. What's his name, Archie? Thank God he remembers. It was as if he'd lost his memory. She went into the room where Monica was lying. Archie was sitting next to her. He stood up as they entered. Norman frowned. Archie, why are you still here? He got a little confused. Well, what am I supposed to do? Like what? Going home or going to work? From the looks of things, it's not until the morning at the earliest. Like in the morning. I thought an hour was all I had on my schedule. Norman smiled. Clock's ready when it's something else. It's very rare here, and it's also very undesirable. You mustn't torture yourself. Go away, your wife will be taken away for other tests anyway. As soon as we know something more definite, we will call you. Archie looked at his wife. Monica was dozing after getting some kind of injection. He got up. Frankly, he didn't want to be here himself. I just didn't have the energy to watch this lunatic break the comedy. All right, but if you need anything, call me right away. Here's my card. Sure, Archie. But don't wait too early. Besides, We won't all have calls to make right now, but as soon as it starts or is finished, I'll be sure to call you personally." The deputy mayor thought for a while, and then he answered, "Let's do it better when it's over, so we don't have to do all this yelling and screaming." "Okay, it's a deal." Norman gently nudged Archie toward the exit. Angelina was already setting up her device next to Monica. She was well aware that if they didn't save the baby, no one would listen to their explanation. Norman returned, but that there were 3 doctors in the room next to Monica. One of the women said, "Honestly, it's even worse than we thought. Read the map. It says so much heresy. It's like an amateur wrote it. And I haven't even heard that name." Norman picked up the map. Indeed, what was written there was like an excerpt from a medical encyclopedia. To retell it in his own words, he discarded the chart. "Okay, in a nutshell, the child is severely intoxicated with all the signs of developmental delay. But that's not what worries me. Look at this." She handed him a long ribbon. He looked at it, and his eyebrows darted upward. "Yes, it looks like the child has a severe malformation. Anyway, no matter how you look at it, he's not a survivor." Norman sat down on the table. "What a mess we are in, and no one will look into it. They'll blame it all on us." "Thank you, Nina. We'll take it from here. We'll take it from here." The woman collected her instruments and headed for the door. The young doctor followed her as soon as the door behind them closed. Angelina looked at the chief. "Let's try to hold it longer. Clean it up. You know that's not going to help, don't you?" "I know. But we'll have more time to figure something out." "But that's the only way." "But what can you think of in such a situation?" The door to the room swung open. It was Beatrice. "Norman, we're in an emergency. I need help." He stood up, followed her, examined the woman who'd been brought in a little earlier without papers, and held out his hand for tests. Beatrice gave the papers. The man quickly ran through them with his eyes. "But what do you want from me? You're a doctor, and you understand that she has a 1 in 1 million chance. So we need to give her that chance. Who's going to give it? Can you do it yourself? You've been through everything you need to at the Institute. But I work in a different line of work." She didn't have time to finish her sentence. The door in the room opened abruptly, and Angelina shot up. "Norman! She's the one going crazy in there, trashing everything." He left quickly. Beatrice looked at the young woman in despair, and she suddenly opened her eyes. Beatrice rushed over to her. "My God, you're awake. What is your name?" The woman smiled warily at Veronica. "Don't be nervous. So I know I'm going to die anyway. Here's some more nonsense. That's not silly. We all died. My mother when she had me, my grandmother when she had my mother. This is not a pattern at all. And then there's this pattern. You see, my husband is a doctor. I really wanted a baby, and he wouldn't even let me try. Well, there are exceptions. One time I got pregnant, and when he found out, he almost took me to an abortion. I wanted to leave him, but he wouldn't let me." He cried. "He said he couldn't stand to see me walk to my death, and I didn't want to just live like that. I loved him very much, too, and I thought as long as I was young, I had a much better chance." "Can you tell me your address, your husband's name?" "Yes, of course you must. Just hear me out. Phil hasn't seen me in 6 months. I went away hid. I knew he wouldn't let me have the baby. Not because he's evil, but because he loves me too much, and I couldn't live with him forever. I'm sick. Please save my daughter. She will be with him always." Beatrice saw that the woman was about to faint. She grabbed her arm, her address, her last name, but Veronica had already closed her eyes. Beatrice shouted to the nurse, "Quickly to the operating room." "But Beatrice, you know all the surgeons are busy with this play." Beatrice turned to her. "Oksana, honey, do you realize that now we're going to lose 2 altogether?" The girl nodded. "And so maybe we can save someone." The girl thought for a second. "Okay, Beatrice, I'm with you. If anything, I've never liked working under an Archie. Beatrice tried to gather her thoughts. She understood that they were in for a very difficult cesarean experience. So complicated that you cannot get anyone out. She, of course, did when she was in graduate school, simple operations, and knew perfectly well what to do now. But only in theory, and in practice she never even assisted, and never even assisted, and never in such complex cases. In 3 hours. You know, Beatrice, I thought I was going to hell with you, and now I can tell you that even our famous surgeons would give up quicker. You, I just take my hat off to you. The surgical unit broke out Norman. Beatrice, what do you think you're doing? Do you have any idea what you've done? You're going to jail now. She didn't say anything. Oksana boldly stepped forward. You're wrong, Norman. Beatrice did things that no one else would have done, and both the baby and the mother survived. The chief doctor looked at Beatrice in amazement. Really? Are you serious? He looked through the transparent glass into the operating room. There was a nurse by Veronica's side. The baby had already been carried out. Well, then I don't know. Congratulations. Norman turned around and rushed out the door. Oksana looked at Beatrice in surprise. What's wrong with him? He's running. Beatrice shrugged her shoulders. Monica must be the one giving them the heat. It was exactly that. Monica not only was everyone in the ward demanding a drink because their stupid legacy wasn't helping. She had to be restrained at first and then tied up altogether. We needed her to sober up at least a little bit. Otherwise, no surgery was out of the question. Norman was nervous. Time was playing against them, though everything was playing against them this day. At least Angelina was there for him. He was well aware that she was near him, not because she wanted to help him, but because she had a sniffle. It was her fault a patient had died the day before, and if Angelina had minded her own business as necessary, she might have been saved. There's been a lot going on at the hospital these days. They're sure to send us some kind of inspection, but we don't need it. If you dig a little deeper, you could get 15, 20 years in maximum security, 2 years to retirement, and that's it. Then look for wind in the field. Beatrice drank a coffee and decided to go outside for just a few minutes to get some air. She saw Lucas right away. Lucas, he turned to her. A man smiled. Hello. Hello. What are you doing here? He came over, was quiet, then raised his head. I don't know myself. You see, I almost didn't sleep tonight as soon as I closed my eyes. Sonja and the way she looks at me, as if I have committed a terrible crime. And I really feel like I have. Which one is that? The baby was given up. There's only half a written one and half 100. You see, it turns out that I gave up Sonia. But why did you come here? The man suddenly grabbed her hand. Please show it to me. I'm begging you. I don't know why. Just show me, Lucas. He grabbed her hand very painfully. He pulled away fearfully. I'm sorry, please. I didn't do it on purpose, so of course no one will let you inside. There's a big window over there. That's the third one over there. I'll show you the first floor. See, Lucas nodded and didn't even wait for her to go to the hospital before he ran under the window. Beatrice smiled. Who knows, maybe the baby won't be orphaned. She pointed the baby out the window. The nurse looked out with her. Do you think Beatrice will take it? I don't know. It's not his child, to be sure, but I hope so. She went outside again. Lucas was sitting on the bench, his head down. Beatrice sat down, sitting beside him, silent. Finally he spoke. I can't leave her. When I think of the orphanage ahead and all that, I know Sonia won't forgive me. Why, John? And nothing. He came in, cried, begged forgiveness, and then left. Said he was going away for good. Beatrice, will you help me? I just don't know what to do now. I wrote the waiver. I'll talk to the head doctor. He may not have sent your application anywhere yet. Too many busy days at the hospital. Lucas thanked her for a long time and wrote his phone number on a piece of paper. Tomorrow is the funeral, and the day after that, I'll be there. What about you alone? It's okay, I can do it. I know that for a fact. And the people in the village are such that no one will be lost. Everyone helps each other. What about you? Do you come to visit us on vacation with your husband or alone? It's very beautiful here, Beatrice smiled. Yes, she could use a vacation. All right, Cole, I will certainly think about your proposal. The night passed quietly. Beatrice glanced over Veronica's cheeks, a little steamy. She was going to be out of an artificial coma by morning. The baby was fine, too. A very pretty little girl was born. I wonder how that mayor's wife is doing. Strange, it's been so quiet. She must have given birth already. Beatrice even took a nap, looked at her watch. Soon the babies would be brought in for feeding. She went over to Veronica. Next to the girl was the doctor. Good morning, Beatrice. Did you hear what a miracle you performed? Come on, you perform such miracles every day. I don't know. I don't think I dare. It's not nice to have a patient die on your table. Do you know if the wife of this one from City Hall gave birth? Yes, I did. But it didn't look good in there. I heard the nurses say the baby wasn't going to make it. There's a whole bunch of stuff. A girl, I think. Okay, Beatrice, your patients await, so I'll pass it on to you. I was on my last shift today. I'm going home. I've been calling for a long time. I couldn't make up my mind. But then I woke up and realized that here I would still be a stranger among many. And they really wait for me there. They need me for sure. Good luck to you. Thank you. The doctor walked swiftly out of the intensive care unit. Beatrice turned to Veronica. Hello. Of course, I understand that you have said goodbye to everyone, but we had to see each other. Veronica smiled weakly. Your name is Beatrice. I heard the doctors talking. They said you had performed a miracle. Let's talk about all kinds of miracles. Then you dictate your husband's number to me. Okay, now tell me, how did she? Beatrice smiled. Well, there are, of course, some problems, but not critical. They are more related to you. So a day or two, and your daughter will make a full recovery, and they'll bring her to you. Veronica cried. You know, I never imagined that I would ever see her at all. I had always prepared myself for her to be here without me, with her husband, and me not being here. And now I don't understand how I could have imagined that. I mean, she and I are one and the same. Veronica, you're going to get a room now. Won't you tell me again? Yes. Now the girl quickly dictated the numbers and fell asleep with a smile. Beatrice dialed the number, but the caller was unavailable. I decided that I would call back from home as well. It was quiet and peaceful at home. Sure enough, Kevin was gone. She took a shower. Now she could relax. 3 whole weekends. Before she left, she stopped by Norman's house. He looked at her with pained eyes. She didn't ask him anything about the important woman in labor. Decided to spare him. What do you want, Beatrice? Norman, there was a daddy coming to see that girl whose mother passed away. He wrinkles his forehead. The one who wasn't pregnant by him. Why did he come? He wrote a waiver. He's understandable. You see, he decided to take the baby. He says he has half of his wife in him anyway. And he's very worried, doesn't know what to do about the rejection. Norman rummages through, pulls out a piece of paper. To be honest, in connection with recent events, I had completely forgotten about this piece of paper. Is he going to change his mind? No. The funeral is today and he's coming tomorrow. Norman tore up the application. One less problem. Let him do all the paperwork and take the baby. Less headache for us. Beatrice nodded and headed for the exit. Beatrice, how are your charges doing with your daughter? You see, a chance has to be taken. Now, for some reason, she thought the head doctor looked at her strangely. She pulled out the phone again when she lay down, and lo and behold, there was a ringing tone. A male voice answered. I'm listening. Who are you, and how'd you get my number? Veronica asked me to call you. There was silence on the phone. Veronica, is her new love gone already? Listen to me. I don't know what she told you not to look for her, but she's in the maternity ward right now. She had a beautiful baby girl yesterday. She says you wouldn't let her give birth, and that's why she left. What do you mean? Yes, I want to tell you that you became a daddy. She's undocumented without anything at all. Is she alive? There was so much longing in his voice. Of course she's alive. Of course. It was a bit of a struggle, but I'm fine now. Address. Give me the address. Beatrice dictated the city. What am I in Germany now? What city? Beatrice's eyebrows went up. She dictated the full address. Please tell me that as soon as I get my plane ticket, I'll fly out right away. I think you flew in early, although I'll go see her. I'll tell her everything. Thank you. Thank you very much. The next day she went to the hospital to give her everything. If he wasn't already there, she would find out how Lucas and his son were doing. The hospital was quiet. She heard voices from the chief physician's office, went there and suddenly stopped. Why are you afraid of everything? What can she do? The main thing is to hang everything on her. That was Angelina's voice. She turned and walked down the corridor. I asked her what room Veronica was transferred to. Oksana rolled her eyes. Oh, Beatrice, we've got this. What happened, Oksana? That woman, Veronica's daughter, died. How did she die? Why did she die? Was she all right? I don't know. They say there are so many things, so many abnormalities. Beatrice looked at Oksana with a heavy stare. Tell me, how does the deputy mayor's wife feel? Okay, I already fed the baby today. It was like she was switched. She used to yell and insult everybody. And now she's so affectionate. That's what motherhood does to people. She just wanted to go to Veronica's room. When she saw the Norm and Angelina, let's go to my office. She followed him silently. The procession led by the same Angelina, Beatrice still thought, as if under escort. Anyway, Beatrice has had too many joints with you lately. For me, she even choked on it. A man died because of your negligence, but it wasn't done either. She turned sharply to Angelina. She only smiled. You know that very well. But what are you saying? I myself witnessed Angelina doing, and then the spontaneous operation that caused the death of the child, that Beatrice came close to Norman. You gave that alcoholic's baby to Monica? The head doctor recoiled. You must be a user yourself, Beatrice, because such nonsense could come only in an unhealthy head. At least you understand that you can go to jail. But we're colleagues, and we've worked together for so many years. Of course, now you won't be allowed to practice medicine, but at least you won't go to jail. I have to fire you for negligence and incompetence. And you should be grateful to me. Beatrice looked helplessly at her friend. She shrugged her shoulders. You do realize that if you just try to prove something somewhere, we'll quickly hang all the deaths on you. In fact, you'd better go somewhere far away for the time being. Archie, of course, promised to help, but you never know. There's no one to ask. Beatrice exhaled noisily. You're such a bitch, Angelina. I believed you. Something had changed. But no, people don't change after all. But be careful what you say. You better get on with your family instead of waving your sword at them. Beatrice dashed out of the office. Norman shouted after her. In half an hour, come back for labor. And don't let her come in here again. Beatrice almost knocked down Oksana, who of course heard all the chief doctor's words. Oh, Beatrice, what is it? But she listened to no one and flew into her office. She gathered her things and did not go to the exit of the hospital. He'll send it in the mail. I jumped out into the street and froze. Lucas was getting into the car on the porch. He was holding a bundle with a pink ribbon. He saw her, smiled, handed the bundle to someone in the car and walked over to her. Here's Beatrice going home. She found the strength to smile. Congratulations to you, Lucas. Thank you. I decided to name my daughter Soniechka after my mother. They say you can't do that. But I think it's all nonsense. Sonia's only good for little Sonia. Beatrice, are you all right relatively? They fired me. Lucas was surprised. You? How is that possible? There you go. Look, Beatrice, don't think anything bad. You come and visit us. I have a big new house. The river is almost in the village. We have places like this, you forget everything at once. Sonechka will be glad to give you a rest. You'll get your strength back. My neighbor Zoya is wonderful. There's a friend of mine sitting in the car. She's nice. She won't let you get bored. I'll think about it, though I really will, and I don't know what I'm going to do next. She smiled at the reflecting car and walked home. She walked about halfway and decided to stop for a cup of coffee at a cafe. There was absolutely no hurry for her now. She entered the hall looking for a free table. Suddenly she froze. Seated not far away was Kevin, and in front of him was the young and beautiful woman Angelina had told her about. Beatrice involuntarily took a step forward. Kevin held the woman's hand in his and said something softly to her. And he saw Beatrice. He let go of the woman's hand and started to walk towards his wife. Only Beatrice did not wait. She turned and ran out of the cafe. The woman heard Kevin calling her from behind somewhere, but she ran away. She popped home for just a minute, grabbed the money and the keys to her bug. That's what her husband called her little green car, tossed some things into her bag, and sprinted out of the apartment. Already on the outskirts of town, choking back tears in her voice, she asked Lucas for the address. Zoya proved to be an excellent listener. Beatrice completely unnoticed everything that had happened to her. They had already fed little Sonia, and her father took her to his room, where there was a cradle by the bed. You women are talking here and we're sleeping. We need to grow up. Are you sure it's the mistress? Angelina told me about it, didn't she? I don't know. So openly meet in a cafe, especially not far from your work, I do not believe it. And then you can hold a person's hand, if, for example, to comfort him in something. Zoya, can't he comfort her for so long? Zoya shook her head. No, I understand you, of course. But I don't believe it. What about work? Are you sure the kids have been switched? No, I'm not sure. No one will let me check anyway. And to accuse me in the first place. You know they're going to turn on me, don't you? God, I'm so confused. It's not like I've done anything wrong. But I feel so ashamed to go out on the street. Nonsense. Let's wait a little while, and then we'll find out what's what. A week later, Beatrice was sitting in front of the television with Sonia in her arms. The girl had just eaten and was now singing sweetly. Beatrice just did not want to put her to bed. They decided that, as long as Beatrice lived here anyway, Sonia's dad will work. He would, of course, be paid both maternity leave and a pension. But an extra penny in a house with a small child would never hurt. The local news was on TV. Beatrice became alarmed. It showed their hospital, or rather their chief physician. He was being led in handcuffs from the door of the maternity hospital. Angelina's pale face loomed in the background. There was talk about a big inspection being ordered. Something about misuse of funds and that someone else had been appointed head doctor. Now that's something. Beatrice put the girl down. She thought about it. Then she took out her phone, which she hadn't turned on in a while. She decided to call Oksana. She seemed to have her number somewhere. She hoped very much that her husband had stopped calling her and she would not receive a text message. As soon as the machine was turned on, one text message after another flew out. They were messages not only from her husband, but also from Oksana, and even from Angelina. She didn't have time to dial the number. The phone rang. It was Kevin. Beatrice knew, of course, that she couldn't hide for long. Hello. Hello, where are you? What does it matter where I am? Or do you urgently need a divorce? What the hell is a divorce? I don't want to divorce you. How do you want to be my husband and my mistress at the same time? Beatrice is not a mistress. We were just talking. Of course, you've been talking for a long time. Angelina told me about you almost 6 months ago. That's how. But, of course, how could it be without your girlfriend? She told me that when she saw us, Diana's husband was next to us. So her name is Diana. Yes, her name is Diana. And her husband was once a very close friend of mine. Then he got married, moved away. I got married. They came back not too long ago because he has cancer. The treatment is going on with varying success. Diane suffers because she loves him. But she can only tell me about it. She's always positive when she's with him. I haven't heard of friends like that. Beatrice could feel herself getting sick. Do you remember the pirate? Yes, it was his dog. Kevin, explain to me why you didn't tell me anything. What about when your friends saw us? I just met them. I wanted to tell them, but it was like you were stonewalled. I thought I was in trouble at work, so I stayed out of other people's problems. And you kept putting up a wall. I didn't understand what was going on, and I even thought you had another man. Fool, both are good. Where are you? Hello? Are they looking for you here with the dogs? I know. Or rather, I guess that's why I don't want to go back. Kevin, it's so confusing in there. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And then Beatrice cried for the first time in a long time. Kevin yelled, "Will you tell me your address or not?" she dictated. Kevin said, "Wait." And passed out. The husband arrived and entered the house. She threw herself on his neck. "Kevin, I'm sorry. I don't know why I didn't talk to you. I know, though, because I was afraid to hear that you were really seeing someone." Her husband held her close to him. "You fool, even though you have a higher education." Lucas approached them, holding out his hand. "Lucas, the father of the girl your wife saved." Kevin exhaled, smiling. And Beatrice. Suddenly she realized he was jealous, too. "Beatrice, we have to go home." "Kevin, I'm afraid." "No one is accusing you of anything. They've already dealt with everything. There's only one case they're interested in. The new head doctor came several times. He's not going to interrogate you. He says he wants to talk about that operation when you saved the woman home." "Yeah. Look, I was surprised too. And he's not a bad guy, even though he's young. He says he wants to discuss privately, so no one knows." Lucas, Sonia, and Zoya saw them off. Zoya even wept. "You must come by all means. Take your husband and come to us for the whole summer. We'll be there, I promise." I turned to Lucas. "You'll be sure to call. Tell me how Sonacheka is. If you need to, do not be shy." "Okay, thank you. We'll be waiting for you." She walked around the rooms. "God, it's so nice to be home. I didn't even realize until just now how much I missed it." Kevin walked up to her, put his arms around her. "You ought to be given a good beating, but I'm so glad you're here. Beatrice, when are you going to explain to yourself that there's only one woman in the world for me, and that's you?" She looked into his eyes for a long time. So dear, so loved. I was so scared of losing myself that I preferred to just hide. You know, like an ostrich burying its head in the ground. It's like that. Kevin picked her up in his arms. "I'll bring you to me so you won't get lost again." "I'll never get lost again." Beatrice clenched her hands restlessly. Kevin called the new head doctor, and he said he would be there in half an hour. What exactly does he want to know? I was so disgracefully fired the next day. I even got an article. I couldn't find the strength to go to Veronica and look her in the eye. "What are you so worried about?" Just tell everything as it really happened. After all, you weren't called in for questioning. The doctor was really young. He said hello, introduced himself. It's a pleasure. Beatrice, please tell me about the operation. What was it all about? The thing is, the death certificate lists the cause of birth trauma, then a bunch of related diseases. The baby was suffocating and everything. Oksana says everything went smoothly with the baby. It's just Veronica you had to deal with. Beatrice looked at him in surprise. No, there were no birth traumas, nothing like that. The girl is strong, very active. Yes, you can ask the pediatrician everything. Unfortunately, he was fired too. And where he is now, I don't know. I just want to make it clear to you. I'm not asking you as a doctor, or as the chief doctor, or as the chief doctor. I'm asking you as the father of that girl, she gasped. You, Veronica's husband? Yes, you were the one who called me. As luck would have it, we had bad weather, and I could only fly out 3 days later. When I arrived, Veronica was in a terrible state. I thought she had lost her mind. I almost lost it myself, to tell you the truth. I could have lost both of them. Then you tell me everything's okay. I fly in and my daughter's gone. I want to understand. If there was nothing wrong with the birth, then what was it and why the wrong report was given? Veronica probably told you that we were already pregnant. I almost had to force her to have an abortion. She couldn't forgive me for a long time. The thing is, Christy has a serious illness. She sleeps for a long time, but sometimes she can wake up. Then she has to take very heavy medication. That pregnancy came during just such a period. And if we had kept that baby in general, it either wouldn't have survived or would have been born disabled. I want you to understand what our little girl means to us. Beatrice looked at her husband and stood up. Yes, I will tell you everything, the doctor asked confusedly.